Hello everybody, me Mudahar, and welcome to another episode of Virus Investigations. This time we got an actual chill episode going on with you. One that actually takes me back to a time of malware and viruses where they were actually really fun to get. Okay, not fun to get, I mean, obviously losing all your data isn't exactly the funnest thing in the world, especially in a time period where cloud backup services weren't so readily available. But you know what? They definitely had some form of character, each and every goddamn one of them. Nowadays, when you get a virus, it's often very financially, it's financially set. A lot of the viruses will oftentimes not have anything unique. It's really just back-end code that's spying or stealing stuff from your computer anyways. So it's not really that exciting, okay? I've heard tons of reports about random software getting these spyware type deals going on to them. And honestly, it's not exciting. It really isn't, But ladies and gentlemen, this one, I would say, this era of viruses was awesome. But in order to go back to it, we have to take a look at DOS, disk operating system. I looked at a set of viruses on these, a set of them, and they were fun to examine for sure. But the reality of them was that they all had character to it. It was a time period where viruses were sort of getting out of their infancy. And some of them were actually pretty politically motivated, to be honest with you, too. So that was actually an interesting side of it as well. This one that we have looking today is KUKU, which is actually an example of a parasitic virus. One that will absolutely destroy all the files on your computer. So some of the ones that we looked at were interesting. Yes, they were very interesting. And they may have made your computer act in a weird way, but none of them were really this disturbing and destructive, so to speak. So I figured we might as well look at one and see kind of how it operates and have sort of a chill session with it today. So yeah, going to DOS again, ladies and gentlemen, back in the day, computers weren't, GUI ridden. You never had a GUI going around over here. Back in the day, you had to type out all your instructions. So, it was a process, mounting drives, moving stuff through and through, launching programs, using command line stuff. I mean, that puts some hairs on your chest, and God, I feel pretty old thinking about command lines. But you know what? Back in the day of DOS, it's kind of all we had. Until Microsoft released Windows 1.0, you had Mac OS coming out, the early renditions of Macintosh. We really didn't have many options for a GUI-based system. So thankfully, those came around and it made computers not only more accessible, but just more pleasurable to use. We actually got a lot more done out of getting GUIs on your computer. It really cut the hassle and bullshit out of using computers. But, for an old fart like me, that does raise some bits of nostalgia. So we're actually going to be running this virus in a virtual machine within a virtual machine. So usually I have a VM setup going around over here. I put another VM under the hypervisor, and then we're actually going to be using DOSBox because this virus is a DOS-based virus, and honestly, I can't run it on Windows 10 systems nowadays. And of course, the general reason for that is because computers have advanced, processor types have advanced, and those old computers, like those old libraries, the Win16 libraries, anything beyond that, isn't even part of Windows 10 anymore. I think Win32 files themselves, 32-bit applications, have to actually be emulated under a software layer with the Windows 64-bit OSs now. But as you can see, we're going to a time period where you need some emulators to run this kind of stuff. So let's get that started real quick. Let's go to that and just run KUKU. So we've got Windows Vista like always, and Windows Vista again is sort of our little baby. I love this operating system to death. I mean, it might have been a piece of crap at launch, but for some reason it's always down in my heart as a personal little favorite. Anyways though, so we actually are using DOSBox to kind of do it, and a quick example over here, let me just move this down so it's a little more noticeable over here. These are DOS applications. So KUKU is actually the virus that we're using, and Word is I believe Microsoft Word 5. So just as a quick reference, when you're trying to run an application, it'll actually tell you the version of the file is not compatible with the version of the Windows you're running. Check your system's information to see whether you need an x86 or 64 version of the program. So this, I believe, is a 16-bit program, it's a very, very old program, and it won't even run even on Vista. So if it's not touching Vista, it's not going to touch Windows 7, Windows 10. It might be able to kind of touch Windows XP, but I still think it needs some form of a compatibility layer when that happens. So this is DOSBox, and DOSBox is, as is said, is a DOS emulator. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open up our computer directory, go to our local drive, and here I have a folder called
called KUKU that I've created. Now what we're going to do is we're going to copy both applications in here. And as you can see, one over here is KUKU Word. One is 608 kilobytes, so it's larger than KUKU, and we're going to be needing that. And KUKU is 1 kilobyte in size, so it's a very small program. Again, it's just a payload and that's it. Now, in order to run this, what we're going to do is mount as a C drive, for instance, in this case. And we're going to link it to our C drive and KUKU. So basically what it is mount is the command we're using to create a virtual drive. C is the drive letter we're giving it in DOSBox, and C:/KUKU is actually where it is. So let's say you go to computer, you click on C drive, KUKU is the folder. That's how you're going to do file pathing. Hit enter, and it's going to say drive C is mounted as local directory C KUKU. Now, if you do C:, you should actually be moving to that directory right there. Now, typing in directory, you should be able to see word.exe and KUKU. So let's say you fire up Word, you'll actually be able to type, you know, this is a test, ! And I believe if we can just, if we can save this real quick, can I save it? How do I save this? I've never used this. Oh yeah, here we go. Hit Y, save file name, test, and hit enter. Title, muda, something like that, blah, blah, blah. Valid date format. Not a valid date format. 0109, 1997 or something. There we go. Not a valid date format. Get out of here. Okay, directory. I think it actually is. So test.doc, you can actually, so you can't even load that up. You need Word to load it. But let me just hit clear. CLS actually, what is it? CLS. Now if we hit directory, we can actually see all this stuff right there. So you got an INI file, you've got test. So basically you've got a very basic form of some files on the computer right now. So let's actually launch KUKU and see what it does. So by going to kuku.com, it'll actually start firing up KUKUs everywhere. So as you can see, this at this point, it's writing everywhere. So it's basically taking over graphic functionalities, whatever. At this moment in time, that payload is launched. So as this is happening, what it's doing is it's actually infecting the other files that are larger. And in this case, every file, even that MWINI, which is the smallest 204 bytes, is still larger than KUKU. So that's also being infected. At this moment in time, it's almost completely decimated whatever we needed. So yeah, it's not looking too good for this computer. So it's starting to write everything. It's getting everything kind of going. So if I hit escape a couple times, try to get out of there, I'm actually not getting anything done. So what do? Well, what we're gonna try and do is we're gonna turn it off. At this moment in time, it's all infected, like it's all gone. So I guess we'll try to turn it off and see what we can do from here. Actually, no, we have gotten rid of it. So if I do clear, or clear right here, illegal command, CLS, you can actually wipe it all off. CLS basically gets rid of everything on the screen there. So now if we go to directory, what I can do is, let's say we fire up Word. We can browse whatever we want, and what should kind of happen is, this is so weird, like the actual system is giving me weird like error command prompts. So at this moment, what should actually kind of happen is the KUKU should turn on or whatever, so on and so forth. So here you can see some stuff getting infected again. So at this moment in time, what KUKU has done is, and you can actually get a better example of this. Let's say if you used an actual DOS virtual machine, like you can do instead of going the DOSBox route. This is just what I wanted to do for a quick explanation. But basically, what's going on is, at this moment in time, KUKU has infected every other program that is on that drive. And no matter what you launch at this moment in time, it's all an infected payload. So because of its size, it's actually infecting everything larger than it, which can almost be anything in this situation. There's very minimal files that are going to be smaller than just KUKU, you know what I mean? So yeah, at this moment in time, it's completely infected the DOSBox. So it's infected a virtual machine within a virtual machine. And let me tell you, that is a hell of a thing to do. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go back out of it. I think that's really all we need to see. So let's go back to the other screen.
All right, so that was the DOSBox look at KUKU. Now, it wasn't incredibly long of a virus, but what essentially was happening over there is how KUKU operates is, since it's a virus that is, I believe when we looked into it, like 66 bytes of storage, Basically, how it works is, let's say you have your C drive mounted on your computer, right, which is your basic hard drive on your DOS system. So you have like let's say 800 megabyte hard drive, and you have all your documents and your programs. This virus is a really tiny virus. It's a very small virus. All it really contains are these payloads. And one of the payloads that makes it so parasitic is the first thing KUKU will do is it will actually load up and examine all your files. So the way that KUKU works is it has a logic. It has a logic code in it that says anything that is smaller than KUKU's file size, which realistically shouldn't be a whole heck of a lot on your system, but the odd and end files, usually your documents, your programs that you're using will be larger than this program for sure. It's in the bytes, for crying out loud. So essentially what will happen is anything that is smaller, KUKU will ignore, but anything larger, and KUKU will effectively open that file up and write itself into it over and over and over and over and over again. So when you first run KUKU, what it's essentially doing is it's finding all of those files that are larger than it and writing itself to it. So anytime you say open any of those files, they either become corrupted or they start running the KUKU payload. Effectively, this is a parasite. It will constantly latch itself onto other programs, on other files, and will turn them against you. It is a command batch file, is a command file in of itself that will essentially destruct everything on your computer. And back then, it wasn't exactly easy to get rid of the stuff. You know, things like data recovery tools nowadays, which can actually get you corrupted files or old shards of files that are on your computer. Because effectively, how disks work is that you have a file allocation table, you have file tables themselves, right? And even if you write data once, let's say once, you may be able to recover files, provided you don't keep writing to a drive, right? Of course, with the advent of different kind of drives, different drives in general, it's become more difficult, or whatever you want to call it. But generally, once this stuff is writing files at such a rapid rate to your drive, it's going to be effectively difficult to get your files back. And it was difficult to get your files back in any case back then too, but now it's even doubly worse now that they're being written to repeatedly, even in some cases. So yeah, this is a virus that, yeah, it looks kind of flashy and cool from a graphic standpoint. I mean, it really does. I mean, if you have an epileptic warning, don't stare right into it. But even from a destructive payload, this might be a virus that I would say is just a hair under CIH, right? Like what CIH was doing was straight wiping your motherboard through a opcode exploit. But what this is doing is it's straight wiping your files out too. So let's say you had any important documents, any important programs, any important file for work, which, you know, that would be kind of the target you'd be going for. Yeah, it's a funny looking virus, but at the end of the day, you're losing all your data, for crying out loud. So really effectively, who's getting screwed where and how hard are you getting screwed? I would say the range is pretty high up there. But yeah, if this virus made you cuckoo, then you probably realize why. And that was a terrible fucking joke. But ladies and gentlemen, that was the KUKU virus. A little chill day today. Didn't want to keep you here for too long. Kind of wanted to go back to that DOS virus, for crying out loud. I love the days of DOS, man. It was a simpler time, dude. You know how great it was to just run Doom fucking 95 back in the day, just classic fucking video games. That was where it was at. You know, let me tell you, it was a simpler time. It was a safer time, a time before the dreaded world of the internet. But ladies and gentlemen, don't let old Muda keep you any longer than I have to. Enjoy your Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you back in 2 weeks for this series. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it, I am out.